What is up, everybody? I am your host, Shane Mallory, joined by my co-host,
Ricky DaCosta.
And tell the folks what time it is.
Run it back.
Time to run it back. Episode 18. People, I say this all the time, but please like, comment, and subscribe. We're looking for the 5-star reviews. It was rapid fire in terms of growth this week. I mean, one day I'm looking at it and it was like 570. The next day I'm sitting there looking at it, it's I think it's like 630 or 20, something in that range. So a lot of growth over the holidays. We really appreciate it, but we're looking for that steady and increased growth over time. So please like, comment, and subscribe and give us those 5-star reviews. We really appreciate it. Also, too, special shout out to all you guys. Hope you guys had a very Merry Christmas, all right, and are enjoying the holidays. Everybody needs a time off. It's great to spend a time. How was your Christmas?
Listen, it's a beautiful time. Spent a lot of time with the family. My mother, she normally cooks everything. Me and my siblings, we got in the kitchen. We helped out a lot more just to sort of give her a little break.
Shawnee was in the kitchen too?
Yeah, Shawnee was in the kitchen.
All right,
production was stirring it up in the kitchen.
Gotcha.
He might have been stirring a little too much, right? But he was stirring it up. So
stirring up the reels, stirring up the food.
What do you eat during the holiday Christmas season,
So it's crazy. We always grew up eating roast beef.
Okay.
We would always go to my grandparents' house for roast beef, mashed potatoes, standard things like that. After my grandparents died and things kind of changed a little bit moving around, Christmas was crazy because we go to my mother-in-law's, for breakfast. We exchange gifts. French toast, an egg dish. There's like these little pepperoni sandwiches too. It's kind of like a brunch style. Okay. So you sit down, hang out for a little bit, watch the first football game. Then I jump into the car with my wife. We drive all the way down to the shore, go to my mom's, and that's where the roast beef was cooked.
Okay.
So that was delicious. And then this was a surprise. I hadn't had this dessert in so long. She made lemon cake. It was outstanding.
Really?
Oh, it was shot to my heart, man. It was just such a nice surprise.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
How about you?
Beautiful. Listen, I'm Caribbean, so we had everything going, soup, oxtails.
I love oxtails.
Little curry goat.
Love oxtails.
Right, rice and peas. My mom makes a really good shrimp pasta, so she had to chef that up for us, right?
Nice.
Even though, we were trying to give her a little break. But no, it's an amazing time with the kids. Started watching Home Alone 2, right?
You gotta watch Home Alone. Can't have a Christmas holiday without watching Home Alone.
I didn't watch Die Hard yet. Right, but that is a Christmas movie.
Oh, big debate here.
I gotta get that in before the new year. But that's normally one of my.
I gotta watch the Santa Claus. That's all I'm missing right now with Tim Allen. That's my it right there.
So,
man.
But listen, definitely, hey, let us know what your Christmas movie is. Let us know what your holiday dish is. We're all
favorite
about
gift
that
too. Would love to hear that.
Gifts matter, right? Are you giving? Are you receiving that type of thing on the holidays? Side of the when it comes to certain things. So just a time of giving and thankfulness, right?
Yep.
With your loved ones. So let us know in the comments your favorite gifts, your favorite food, as well as your favorite holiday movie.
Yeah, man, I hear you, man. Holiday movies, especially, man. I love watching movies like curling up. If you get like a fire or something like that too, it's getting colder. So yeah, love the Christmas movies. Jingle All the Way too, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Okay,
so that's a low key classic.
Now
right
listen,
there.
you talked about curling up. I think those 49ers really curled up on
excellent segue
this past weekend.
Listen, some excellent games this weekend, but let's start with the most recent one. Ravens versus 49ers. We raced home from my mom so I could sit there and I could watch it. I was like, I haven't been this excited for a game all year. I'll actually start a little bit on the lead with this one.
Okay.
Kind of going into what I saw. Listen, everybody, I feel like as soon as the game was over, you get like that knee-jerk reaction right away. Oh, the 49ers are frauds. Brock Purdy's not an MVP, yada, yada, yada. And then you get on the other side that the Ravens now have to be the heavy Super Bowl favorites, which, listen, I think that's fair. Watching that game, I got to tell you, the 49ers, they said this about them. Whenever you play the 49ers, every team that plays the 49ers, they lose the next week. And a lot of that has to do with how physical they are as a team when they play against. Well, I'm interested to see how they come out this week because somebody met their physicality, and that was the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, right from the opening kickoff, just how that game started, you could just see the Baltimore Ravens defense was ready to play. They were flying on the ball. They were after it. And they did set up a great scheme to stop the Niners. They went all in on stopping McCaffrey, okay? As we all know, they have an excellent pass rush, lead the league in sacks. Watching them now force it all to Purdy. Now, again, some of the interceptions, not all completely on Purdy. There were a couple of tip ones that were up in the air. A defender finds the ball. But Kyle Hamilton, is that his name, the safety for the Ravens? He's outstanding. I mean, that guy is just all over the field, just ball hawking, finding ways to make impactful plays. The Ravens
And he dropped in the draft.
Yes, he did. He did. The Ravens linebackers, Roquan Smith is just a man amongst both. People are so busy talking about Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner, you totally forget that Roquan Smith is on the other side, absolutely tearing it up. I mean,
And don't forget about McQueen.
McQueen too, yeah, absolutely. They made McCaffrey look extremely human. They made the 49ers offense just look very human and pedestrian. They were able to really put it on that offensive line. And when Trent Williams went out with the injury, you could really see. That's the one thing I worry about with the Niners. Can this offensive line be exposed by a team with a good enough, fast enough pass rush that comes in with a good scheme? Can you expose that come playoff time? I'm not sitting here trying to overreact. I think Brock Purdy had a bad game. I think every good quarterback has one sometimes, especially a young one. I think a lot of people are forgetting with Brock Purdy, he hasn't even played 2 full seasons as a starting quarterback. He's basically like a season and a half plus right now he's kind of working on. So, I mean, give the guy time. But listen, hats off to the Baltimore Ravens. I could not believe the physicality I saw all over the field. The way they were able to shut down McCaffrey. It goes to show you, if you're going to beat the Niners, stop the run game, and that's a great start. That was a 16-12 game in the third quarter, and then the Ravens just ran away with it. And on the other side, before I hand it over to you, Lamar Jackson needs to be in serious consideration for that MVP award. I don't care about the numbers. Watch the game. Like, that's where sometimes people get so caught up in like fantasy and stat counting. Lamar Jackson was the MVP of that game. He's the MVP of the Ravens, and I think he's the MVP of the league because looking at all the other quarterbacks, I don't think he has quite the established weapons, as himself around, as much as some of the other guys do around them. And to do that to the 49ers defense, the way he did, like the 49ers would have everything covered, everything's perfect. And when all else fails, Lamar can scramble, and he can either go and get a couple of yards or he scrambles, go and complete a pass. But, I mean, I was thoroughly impressed with the Ravens. And, yeah, I mean, they deservedly so at least should be considered right now the Super Bowl favorite. Well, give me your thoughts on the game.
So, listen, everyone is talking about, first of all, definitely hats off to the Ravens, right? First of all, they came in pissed off, right? They were highly disrespected. Yep. Now, look, let the record show, I did pick the 49ers, right? But I thought this was going to be a 30-27 30-28 type of game.
And forth.
And I just thought the 49ers were going to win on a field goal, last sort of a possession type of a situation. Sure. But I knew it was going to be a great game, right? Ultimately, looking back at the game, and I don't see enough people talking about this, the biggest mistake or the biggest mismatch was coaching. Right? Coaching was the biggest mismatch. Sure. Everyone was talking about Brock Purdy, all of the interceptions, but take a look, and you've talked about McCaffrey. I'm going to argue with you for a second. Sure. The Ravens did not slow him down. I have to look up the numbers again.
When he got the ball,
14 rushes for 103 yards, 7.4 a clip on the ground.
So your problem is more with that
they abandoned the run game.
Yeah.
They abandoned the run game. You just said it was 16-12 in the third.
Yeah.
Your quarterback already thrown 3 interceptions.
Sure.
You're throwing the ball 46 times against the Ravens. Now, again, looking back to my initial analysis, the prior week, the Ravens had just played the Rams, like a super high overtime game. I thought they were going to be a little off. But you know what? They were motivated by the disrespect, and they had a great defensive plan. So Brock Purdy, when you look at
They shut down, I should say, McCaffrey in the first quarter, and then they started.
And then he picked up a couple of, But again, he abandoned the run, right?
No, I agree.
And here's what the Ravens did. They got a lot of depth in there. They played zone defense just about the whole game. They got a lot of depth. Brock Purdy loves to throw the ball over the middle, right? Deep ins, over routes.
Yeah.
And so the linebackers got so much depth. Brock Purdy consistently had to throw it over their head, right? And the safeties, instead of dropping deep and covering their zones, they stayed tight to the middle, right? And then they realized that the 49ers weren't throwing to the edges, right? They weren't throwing the corner route. They weren't throwing the 9-ball, none of that stuff. So all of a sudden, what's happening now, the Ravens realize, like, hey, let's get depth, right, in our coverage, force Brock to throw it over our head, and that's why you saw all of those tip balls.
Sure.
When you look at
You also point out a lot, though, how Purdy is a very anticipation-based thrower, and the 49ers offense is very It looked like the Ravens scouted that really well.
They were watching him the entire game. So when you play zone, right, you're not focused on any one individual, so you could read the quarterback's eyes.
To see when he's going to throw the ball.
Yeah, so now when you look at Brock Purdy, right, one of the things that Tom Brady was great at, right, he would look to the right, then throw to the left, right? He's going to look you off.
Yep.
Brock Purdy wasn't doing that, right? He started looking down the middle, then immediately started to go to his number 1, number 2 receiver, right?
Sure.
So he didn't necessarily look off the safeties, right? He didn't look off the linebackers.
Hamilton was all over the field, man.
He was the beast, right?
That dude is special.
A lot of teams are thinking twice about, did they make a mistake letting him drop, right? They said you can't draft a safety too high, but you see that guy got game, right? So that's what made the Ravens scheme so good. They had their eyes on Brock Purdy the entire game. Their linebackers got depth. Now, all of a sudden, right, with that anticipation throw, right, you can jump it. You can try to tip it.
Yeah, sure.
And that's one of the things that was an issue for Brock Purdy. Then he was also holding it a beat. Now he's getting sacked. If you looked in that third quarter, what started to happen, he started to throw the ball behind his receivers because he now is seeing it late. He's afraid to throw it where they're going. So he's not used to throwing it to where they are, right, in that particular offensive scheme. But I blame Kyle Shanahan. I talked about this before. If I'm not mistaken, he is 0-38 when trailing into the fourth quarter.
The stat came up again during the game.
And so he is just not a play caller that is great at in-game adjustments. He has a script, right? If that script is working, if he's ahead, right, then that defense will dominate. But all of a sudden, you talked about the offensive line. Trent Williams is the key. So I go back and I argue.
He goes out and they look extremely pedestrian.
7.4 yards a clip. Why wouldn't you give McCaffrey 30 touches? Now, yes, he did get 6 receptions, but they were really dump offs right later into the game.
He took a couple shots early in that game too. I wonder if that's what scared Shanahan a little. I'm not sure.
He did, right? Listen, and obviously you're thinking about the whole entire season. Here's another thing that I noticed, right? We talked about this, right? You got Deebo Samuel, you got McCaffrey, you got Ayuk, you also got George Kittle. If you realize early in the game,
he did start off. He got off to a hot start. He
did,
yeah.
But where was he in the second, the third, and the fourth quarter? You weren't getting it to George Kittle. Now, when you think about the throws, right, your tight end is your shortest throw. Look at Joe Flacco and Njoku. Why are they doing so well right now? Right, that's his safety valve. Now all of a sudden the linebackers are coming in tight, focus on the tight end. Now you're going over the top to Amari Cooper. Right, so again, it's not a simple offensive scheme, but when the Ravens committed to those skill positions on the outside, and so. I think there was an opportunity for them.
Lighting guys up too when the ball came near them.
They were aggressive. They were focused. They were angry, right? So, again, I think it came down to coaching, right? I think the Ravens had a great offensive scheme. They were focused on Purdy. He wasn't looking people off, right? And then here's the thing. Kyle wasn't throwing the ball downfield. So what were the safeties worried about? None of the balls were thrown over their head. And again, Brock Purdy was focused on the middle. Again, you're throwing against Roquan Smith and you're throwing against McQueen. All of a sudden now, right, like you lost that battle. Right, and so that's the.
But even going to the Slater intermediate and deep, I mean, Hamilton was just all over the field. The guy was just
he had
all
nothing
over the
to fear. He had nothing to fear because he was watching the quarterback the entire time. They were playing zone. Right. So again, this was an opportunity, right, to run the ball because the safeties were so far back in their depth. Right? You have a solid offensive line. Yes, it would have been a slow, grinded game. But there's the argument with the 49ers. Yes, they're a physical team, right? But are they a bruiser, right? They played the Browns, right? And all of a sudden they struggled. They lost
the
that
AFC
game,
North.
Right?
They only beat the Steelers.
Right,
just shows you how tough
now
that
again
division is.
And that was during the beginning of the game, right? McCaffrey, if I'm not mistaken, broke off for like a 75-yard run early in the game and got the lead. Again, they were playing against a sophomore quarterback and Kenny Pickett. Right. So they were really able to take advantage of their lack of offensive scheme. Right. But from a physical nature, the Browns, right, the Ravens brought it. And at the end of the day, the moment looked too big for Brock Purdy because he wasn't prepared by Kyle Shanahan. And that's my opinion on that particular game.
Yeah, no, listen, I definitely hear you on the overall play calling because I was surprised too. Like once McCaffrey started to get a little bit more of a rhythm, the fact that they went away from it so quickly. The big thing in the game too was just like that it's very hard to overcome 4 turnovers against a team as good as Baltimore. But I can chalk it up also to just kind of this. Watching that game, I think the Ravens are just a bad matchup for the Niners because I think they can match their level of physicality. I think they have just as much talent as them on the defensive side of the ball. And I don't care how good your game plan is. You simply cannot prepare for what Lamar Jackson brings as a playmaker to a team. It's just something that you can't. I don't care what you put back there in practice. It's not the same as Lamar.
But listen, when you turn over the ball 5 times in a game, you're giving them way too many opportunities, right, to succeed. Right. If I'm not mistaken, interception for a touchdown, another interception, put him in the red zone. Right. That's that's 14 points.
The 2 interceptions right there. Right. It changed the whole game.
Right. So, but again, where was the run game? Again, as soon as you take the 49ers or Kyle Shanahan off his
platform,
exactly. All of a sudden they fall apart, right? So
that's the part you just nailed it too. That's the one part that worries me about the Niners come playoff time.
So, but then here's the other thing: there's no one in the NFC conference that can match the physicality of the 49ers. Yeah. So their problem is when they go to the AFC, they play the Chiefs, great defense, strong, tough defense. The the Ravens, the Steelers, the Browns.
They just got to hope the AFC North isn't the team they're playing in the Super Bowl.
Listen, or the Chiefs, right? You know, so listen, even though they have
I
their
would like them
woes
against the Chiefs right now, though. And you know what? We'll segue right to that game, and then we'll go back to the Cowboys Dolphins. The Chiefs versus the Raiders. First of all, hats off to the Raiders since Antonio Pierce took over. I mean, they've just been playing hard. They've been playing tough. The defense has played really well. Interesting stat, after the first quarter, Aiden O'Connell didn't throw another pass the rest of the game.
Now,
they won the game.
But here's the thing. I don't know that that's going to help Antonio Pierce keep his job, right? So, listen, you do what you do. Listen, you do what you got to do to win, right? But offensively, they're not wowing anyone, right?
No. Let's say that one. And the Chiefs' defense is good.
But defensively, he has been highly impressive. Nobody thought that defense was going to be as good as they are and be able to hold people down the way they have been. Now, the Chiefs have their offensive woes, but the Raiders' defense absolutely step up. Max Crosby is a beast. He's an ultimate beast.
For a touchdown?
Right? Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Two interceptions,
a fumble and an interception.
That was an interception. Yeah.
But listen, there's so much problem going on with the Kansas City Chiefs right now. Again,
offense is a mess.
I don't want to sound like a broken record, but where's the run game? Well, how come Patrick Mahomes is never...
Pacheco got a concussion,
Pacheco has a concussion,
but
how come the Chiefs are never under center? They're never under center. Right now,
I think they're too cute. Did you see Shannon Sharp? Shannon Sharp had a great breakdown. He's just like, why like he's like the Chiefs are like the girls wearing too much makeup.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're wearing all this makeup because they know there are so many flaws like within their face and skin, but they don't want other people to notice it. And that's exactly the Chiefs do like all this cute stuff. Get under center and run the ball every once in a while.
I agree, but listen, let me ask you a question. Does this offense look a lot like the Bears team under Matt Nagy? Right? You know, real inconsistent, right? Good game, bad game, Jekyll and Hyde type of a situation.
Looks like Bieniemy was obviously more important to the offense maybe than we all thought.
I think he was the disciplinarian, right? I think he was the one that can sort of, I don't want to say make the adjustments, but maybe flip the script to say, hey, you know what? Let's run a little bit more.
Sure.
Hey, let's focus on again a specific group of receivers. Again, I talk about this.
Yeah.
Just about every offensive play, it's always 3 to 4 different receivers.
Yeah.
Right. Rashid Rice should never leave the field.
Yeah.
Right. And so if all of a sudden your X is locked down,
playmaker they got.
Exactly. So why is he leaving the field?
Yeah.
Now you find out your why, right? You stick Sky Moore in the slot. Listen, you drafted him with a 2nd-round pick. You got to believe in him. And then on the other side, you put in, Tony, or you could try out the rookie and Ross, MVS. But first of all, you're paying MVS a lot of money.
MVS are not on the same page. They do not look on the same page anytime.
Listen, how many times are you going to drop the ball and let that and lose a game? Yeah. Right? It's just one too many times.
And you can see the frustration boiling over too. Like Mahomes yelling at the sideline, like, run the effing play. Him shoulder checking Kelsey a little bit. Like, there's a lot going on within that team, right? They look to me much closer to a a one and done, maybe a divisional round team, than they do an actual team that can make a Super Bowl. I just don't know if it's currently constructed. If they don't at least adjust their mindset to the team the team they now currently are, I just don't really see them winning more than 1-2 games in the playoffs.
Well, listen, when you break down the playoff matchup, right? I'm never going to say that the Chiefs are not a Super Bowl contender. You got Patrick Mahomes, you're going to be in it the entire time. But when you look at the breakdown, right? Like the Chiefs will play the Bills right now in the first round.
Would
right?
not love that matchup.
And so yes, that would be a tough matchup. But listen, the Bills was struggling against the Chargers, right?
Fair.
So all of a sudden, if the Chiefs come out with a good offensive scheme and just for at least a game, right, nobody drops the ball, then they're going to be in it, right?
But I would say Buffalo's the more overall talented team walking into that game.
Yeah, but can the Bills win the big moments?
It's fair,
right?
No, it's totally
so
fair.
At the end of the day, Josh Allen hasn't proven
That could
himself.
still change too, though.
Right, it could,
matchup,
but
yeah.
but listen, yes, it could change. But Josh hasn't proved themselves in the playoffs. Remember what the Bengals did to him a year or two ago, right? He had the one game with the Chiefs where it was just an epic game,
Yep.
but he hasn't proven to be that elite quarterback in the playoffs.
Yep.
So again, if it comes down to quarterback play, I'm going to bet on Patrick Mahomes. And can the receivers get it right for one game?
Experience matters, and I'm an experienced guy.
And so, Kelsey's going to show up. Right, remember Watson? Maybe they start running some double tight end. It looks like Jared McKinnon is out. So
Yeah.
Listen,
He's out.
I believe in the Chiefs and they can get it right.
Listen, like again, the Chiefs get there. You always got to give them the benefit of the doubt, but got to clap it up here really quick. Do you know why I'm clapping?
Stop leaving us in suspense.
Two reasons. So the Miami Dolphins finally beat an above 500 team. That's number one. So hats off to them. They won a big time game. And I got to tell you, I was actually impressed with the way that was actually a pretty physical game. The Cowboys, you could see, came ready to play. The Cowboys wanted to win. The Dolphins won a brawl. They won a little bit of a tough game where they weren't flying all around the field, scoring a bunch of points. So that was impressive. And
Are you giving the Cowboys
again because they beat the Cowboys?
Wait, I was just about to say, are you giving the Cowboys a compliment?
Hey, Cowboys fans. I wore that shirt for 1 week. Somebody called me a traitor, I believe, in the comments. I would just like to correct that. That's
I told you he was a secret Cowboys lover.
Traitor. Traitor, not trader, as in somebody who's trading playing cards, all right? But the Cowboys did more or less what I kind of always expect them to do. They show up in a big spot, and they don't deliver. And listen, hats off to the Dolphins, man.
Listen.
Big game.
First
Big
of all,
game.
slow down.
Hey, doing it for the clicks and the views. I want them to come
You're
at
being a
me.
little hypocrite, right? Like, call a game fairly. Dak did his thing on their last drive, came back, took the lead,
Yep.
right? About 2.5 minutes left. And then, the Miami Dolphins and Tua came downfield and won the game. So,
It's supposed to be the best defense in the league, though.
Listen, at the end of the
Cowboys
day,
fans.
Listen, Dak did what he was supposed to do, right? We can't blame, right,
I didn't
the
say
offense.
anything about Dak. I went Cowboys in general, man. I went the team as a whole.
Listen, they did enough to win the game. It just so happened they didn't get the ball
Maybe
the
Dak
last
did.
possession.
Yeah.
Right? So, but listen, hats off to the Dolphins.
Got to give the Dolphins props.
Listen, it was a good overall game.
Yep.
Good on defense.
It was.
Good with the run game. Tua made enough plays, made it when he needed to make those plays.
Sure.
And as I mentioned, they were going to solidify their spot to win that division. And I think with that win, they're going to do that. I think they're going to lose to the Ravens this week.
I do
but,
too.
I think they're going to.
Buffalo can still win the division technically, right?
Technically, they can
Because
tie.
if they lose to them and then they play Buffalo the final game of the season, they would have the exact same record if Buffalo wins this week.
But the difference
and they'd
is
have
the
the tiebreaker.
Dolphins have the tiebreaker.
How?
Right, the Dolphins have the tiebreaker because they're currently 4-1 in the division.
Yeah.
And the Bills are 2-2.
So it wouldn't matter if the Bills beat them twice?
I don't believe so. I don't believe so. Well,
I feel like
hold on. Sorry. They play the Patriots, so that would make them 3-2.
Yeah.
And then
they beat the Dolphins. That would make them 4-2.
Yeah, I guess technically
So they would win. They would get it on its side. Because then their record would be.
But the Dolphins would have to lose to the Ravens. So the Dolphins have to lose
Dolphins
their
can
next
control
two.
their own destiny.
Yeah, so exactly.
And
if
who
they
knows?
win
The
one
Ravens
more,
could come down after that. I just don't see it. I feel like matchup-wise, the Ravens are just, and I think it's in Baltimore too.
It is.
And Miami's a much different team on the road. But got to do another serious shout-out too. Shout-out to the Lions. First division title in, what was it, 60 years?
60
60
too
years?
long to count.
I mean, listen, That's awesome. I think to me, we were talking about Coach of the Year, like that probably solidifies Dan Campbell getting Coach of the Year award. But listen, hats off to that team. Listen, when this team is prepared and they're ready to play, and if they're at home or on turf, they can play with anybody in the league. I do firmly believe that.
But now do remember, they were getting healthier on defense, right?
Yeah, they are. No, they look
CJ
good.
Gardner
They look
came
good.
back, right? They got a little bit more
Yep.
toughness, right?
Yep.
And solidified their secondary.
Yep.
And listen, they have too many offensive weapons
insane.
not to get it right. So if that
insane,
defense
man.
can just, generate a pass rush, they were blitzing a
And
little
is
bit
Jahmyr
more.
Gibbs not the new Alvin Kamara? It is like the exact same player, just younger.
But listen, hey, give David Montgomery the ball, right? Let's not
it's a
forget
good
about
balance.
that.
It's
Exactly.
a good balance, man. A little Earth, Wind, and Fire. We got to come up with a name. The Thunder and Lightning. That was
Well, they were calling themselves like Rhythm and Blues or
Rhythm and Blues, okay.
Rhythm and
Or Rhythm and
Bruise,
Bruise.
right? Something like that, right? There you go.
I like that.
But no, listen, definitely look, very excited for the Lions.
Yeah.
But I got to bring this up. I don't mean to be the Debbie Downer. Right now, it looks like the Lions would play the Rams in the first round of the playoffs. Do you want to know who the quarterback of the Rams is?
Matthew Big Game Stafford, man.
That and Matthew Stafford that couldn't win a playoff game in Detroit.
Super
Could
Bowl
he
winner.
win his first playoff game in Detroit
wow.
against Detroit?
Fantastic.
So
Fantastic lead-in.
this playoffs is matching up so nicely for the NFL because the
And what a game
storylines
that
would
would
be insane.
Rams versus Lions
Right
playoff game
now?
I sign up for that right now.
But
That'd be a
who
great
would you
game.
take right now? I won't hold it against you. Who'd you take right now? Lions or Rams at Lions?
I gotta tell you, I think I would take the Rams.
I agree.
I would take the Rams off of the coaching experience and the quarterback having been there too before. I think that's a shootout, and I think it's an awesome game, but I like the Rams.
Matthew Stafford revenge game.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the nonsense they talked about him in Detroit, come
Absolutely.
back to knock him out
Yep.
after being a winner in the
And
division.
they beat the Saints. Wasn't that in New Orleans that they just played them too? I can't remember if they were home or not. I don't remember the game, but dude, that was a great game too. I mean, it's just
No, the Rams were home.
the Rams were home.
Rams were
Okay.
home.
Puka Nacua, man. Dude's the real deal.
Listen, I don't want to talk about him, man. He cost me a playoff championship.
Yeah,
right,
you're just
in
lucky I
fantasy,
didn't make
right?
it and it cost you one again too, man.
Listen, somebody about to
I'm gonna
take
sign him
over
up for the next 10 years.
your league in the
Listen,
first year being in
I leased the league away for a year. I let you guys have your fun. What kind of
Hey,
a
I've
friend,
talked about this. If you're not first, you're last, right?
what kind of a friend would I be if I invited 2 new people into my league and I just went and dominated them right away and just think they don't even have a chance?
I'm pretty sure I just came in and kicked ass, and you're just making excuses. But we can, digress a little later.
No, listen, hats off to you. You made the finals. There's always next year. But, I mean, I've got 2 titles already. So, I mean, it's about time somebody else won besides me. But, listen, going to the quick rapid fire, teams that kind of kept their hopes alive, playoffs-wise, or got off the schneid. Shout out to the Eagles. Wasn't perfect, but they got a good and needed win against the Giants.
Needed win. Hey, a lot of fight by the
for
Giants.
That top seed still.
Right? A lot of fight by the Giants. That defense was really good. But there are some problems in Philly, right? Let's not.
I don't like the secondary at all.
Yeah, right. The secondary, again, is it the coach? Is it the scheme, right? There's a lot going on in Philly, right? Not generating the pass rush. Are those, secondary players getting a little bit old and a little bit slower? There's something going on. I can't quite put my finger on it, but they're definitely not generating enough pressure. And I think it goes back to those linebackers, right? Their linebackers are just not doing it.
Outside the front, the pass rush itself, the Eagles need a lot of upgrades.
But think about this, right? Look at the Ravens linebackers, right? And look at the Eagles linebackers. There's a big gap between them and the 49ers linebackers versus the Eagles linebackers. I think that's a missing link right now.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Listen, at the end of the day, they got the W. They kept themselves in contention for that top seed. I think the Niners are going to pull it away. But hats off to the Bucs too, man. They're a hot team right now, man. They have kind of separated themselves in that division. They look very good too. Dude, the Browns. Wow.
Joe Flacco threw for over 300 yards.
What am I gonna
Amari
say?
Cooper.
What am I going to say about Joe Flacco?
What are you going to say about Flacco?
Chicks dig the deep ball, man. Chicks dig the deep ball. No, the Browns is just like, that's not a team I'd want to see in the playoffs.
No, not at all.
Player,
With that
defense is tough, man.
Yeah.
Steelers,
That offensive line needs to get healthy.
Yeah.
But, they're going to do good. You bring up the Steelers, right?
They got to win. They kept their
Pickens
playoff hopes alive. Pickens went crazy.
throwing the ball deep. All of a sudden, everyone is talking about fire Mike Tomlin, right? It looked like he was right in keeping him on the field.
Yeah. And then you got the Seahawks coming with a much-needed win, a comeback win against the Titans.
Hey, Geno looked like he was playing for his job.
Hey, man,
right?
it showed like they showed up, man. They needed a ball. And then finally, the Bills obviously keep their playoff hopes alive. But listen, guys, that wraps up the first segment of Run It Back, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back when we
Run it back.
Run it back. What is up, everybody? I am your host, Shane Mallard, joined by my co-host, Mr. DaCosta, and this is segment 2, the final segment of Run It Back this week. We're going a little bit shorter due to the holiday constraints. A lot of us have different things going on. Again, a special shout out to all you guys. Hope you all had a very Merry Christmas, and I hope you have a Happy New Year. Again, like, comment, subscribe. Please give us those 5-star reviews. We greatly appreciate it. We're going at a really nice rate right now, okay? But, I mean, there's nothing wrong with increasing it, you know? So
Yeah, and listen, we're working on a couple more interviews, right?
Yep.
We're trying to bring you a couple more guests, right? We've heard
the interview
your
was very
feedback.
popular. So
Definitely. So we're definitely going to
try.
try to, do some more of that this in the coming weeks.
Yeah, but so what we're going to do here right now, peoples, today is we're going to actually sit down for the next about 15 minutes, and we're going to kind of break down a little bit of this playoff picture / scenarios, okay, of what's kind of going down right now. How it kind of looks right now and how it could change. You know,
how it's going to shape out this week, next week. This is a really big week.
It's a huge week. And again, that's a lot of direct matchups with competitors competing for either final playoff spots,
winning
you're in. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different scenarios. So let's start off here with the AFC. Right, so we're looking at the AFC. Currently, right now, if the playoffs were to start today, we have Baltimore at 12-3 taking the 1 seed. Miami would take the 2 seed, followed by KC at the 3rd, Jacksonville at 4, Cleveland at 5, Buffalo at 6, and that final team currently would be the Indianapolis Colts. So we talked about a few of these scenarios even during the break, but it's funny. So right now you have 2 teams that are vying for that top seed. They play this week, so there's a direct matchup right there. Huge incentive here for the Dolphins to go and try and get that win, because if they win, they pretty much lock up that top seed, I would think.
Well, at the very least, they lock up the division.
Yes,
right,
yes.
and it opens the door to lock up the number 1 seed, right? Because now they would have beaten the Ravens.
Lose the next week, the Ravens could win and then
right.
Have it.
So the Ravens have everything to play off. So listen, I think they're about business. They realize what's ahead of them, so they're going to come out prepared. But listen, the Dolphins are going to be a tough matchup, right? Tyreek Hill. Now, if Tyreek Hill is dinged up at all, then obviously the Ravens are going to dominate here. I still think they're going to win and pull through. But this is a playoff matchup right here.
You go for it right here, because it's like you could almost have 2 weeks off now, essentially.
Exactly.
They've been a little bit banged up. You go for it. You try to punch the Dolphins in the throat, put that game away, and then you basically set yourself up for, getting ready for the playoff run.
But listen, if I'm the Dolphins, do I really want everything to come down to the very last week against the Bills, right? And basically that situation would break down. If the Bills were to win, it would flip and they would win the division.
To the 6th seed, just like that.
Oh my God, that's a tough game. That's
and
a lot of
Miami's
pressure.
A team that wants to be playing at home.
They want to be playing at home, and that game, if I'm not mistaken, it is at Miami. So that's going to be even more pressure for them. So I don't think the Dolphins are going to want to come down to that. So literally this week, big time playoff week for them. But listen, the Jaguars got a lot going on right now, right? They're tied with Houston, with Indianapolis. So the Jags can literally go from leading and winning the division to out of the playoffs.
Sure. Yeah,
right.
Sure.
Trevor Lawrence is hurt. They're going to play the
it seems like could also though still get this 2nd overall seed. If Miami were to lose out, because their conference record right now is the same. So if Miami, let's say, loses the next 2 games, where they're both against AFC opponents, and the Chiefs won, they could still. So it's a crazy little mix.
Listen, the Chiefs really messed up this past week when they lost to the Raiders, because
no room for error now.
There's no room for error. It's going to come down to tiebreaker. Looking at it, they're all tied with the same conference record, right? The Chiefs are 3-2 in their division, so it's they
have an easier finish than the Dolphins do.
They
the
do,
Dolphins
but listen,
have the Ravens and the Bills. The Chiefs have the Bengals, and then I forget who their final game is.
Against the Chargers, right? So the Chargers won, right? Should be an easy win.
Yes.
The Bengals, right, they're also beat up a little bit, but Jake Browning has been throwing the ball. If Chase is playing, right, like that means their offense is going to be rolling. Can the Chiefs keep up with them? I hate to say that, right?
I know.
Even though that Chiefs defense has
interesting
they've been
final 2 weeks, though, between all these seats, how it could potentially shake up.
Yeah, but like right now, the way the matchup is shaking out is, let's say Miami would play play Indianapolis.
Yep.
Right. The Chiefs would play the Bills, and then
Which I
the
would not want if I
Jags
were a Chiefs fan.
would play the Browns.
Yeah.
Right. But here's what I'm arguing. If the Chiefs were to get past the Bills, right now, mind you, that game would be in Kansas City.
Sure.
Right. All of a sudden now, and if everyone wins out, they would be going to Miami to play the Dolphins. I don't think the Chiefs would be scared.
They've already beat them once.
They've already beat them once.
But
right?
in Miami, I think they are a different team than on the road.
You would give them the nod,
yeah.
but you got to give the nod to the Chiefs when it comes to playoff experience.
Absolutely.
You got to give the nod to the Chiefs when it comes to coaching,
Sure.
right? Andy Reid versus Mike McDaniel.
Yeah.
So that might be, things might really shape out for the Chiefs, as disastrous as their season has been with the drops that they've had, right? Things might shape up that, yes, their first round matchup might be super tough if it's against Buffalo.
Yeah.
But if they happen to win that game against the Bills, then their path is clear.
Sure.
Right? Now, if the Bills were to win, they got to go play the Ravens. Right? So ultimately, the Bills, if they land in that 6th spot, they're going to have such a tough road to the playoffs or to the Super Bowl, because they're going to have to go through the Chiefs. They'd have to go through the Ravens, and then potentially play the Miami in the championship game if everything, worked out. So that's going to be a brutal matchup.
So let me ask you this. When we're looking at this AFC right now, which of these teams in the AFC, like which one do you realistically think, how many of these teams do you think would actually have a legitimate shot to go and win the Super Bowl?
Baltimore, Kansas
3.
City. And listen, I'm going to respect the Bills here and give it to them. But I'm going to say this. I don't think depending on how it shapes out, if the Miami didn't have to play Baltimore or Kansas City, I think they got a clear path to the AFC Championship game.
To me, it seems like you're going to have to play one of those teams if you want to win.
Yeah.
I don't think you can count on those two teams being out early.
It just all depends, right? Yeah. Because if it's Miami versus Buffalo, right, they're divisional opponents. So anything could happen in that type of game.
Yeah. And Buffalo, I think, also matches up well with them. I'm kind of on a similar track with you. Here's my thing with Miami. Big game for them last week. Obviously showed they could go and beat, an above 500 team. I'm still just not completely sold on them from the simple fact of, if I have to say you have to be playing at home for me to call you a viable threat, I don't know if that's a true championship contender. They and the Cowboys to me are like very similar. They're like right on that same wavelength. I would even put the Lions almost right there too. I feel like they're a year away from being a team that could go and win. The 3 teams that I see that could actually go and win a Super Bowl: Baltimore Ravens, without a doubt, Kansas City Chiefs, and I just think when they're hitting on all cylinders, the Buffalo Bills, I think, are as dangerous as any team in that conference. I really do think they could play with anybody.
The only thing I'm going to add to that is, not everyone plays Tyreek Hill, right? That's a different speed, right? So depending on that setup. And listen, I love seeing Jalen Waddle, right? When Tyreek Hill was out, like, people forget that he's a great wide receiver, right? Give that man the ball.
Absolutely.
Right? So, but listen, we haven't talked about them, but the Browns are pretty scary right now with Joe Flacco.
I wouldn't
that
want to
Browns
play them.
defense.
I would not
now,
want to
the
play
only
them.
benefit to the Ravens is that if the Ravens and the Browns played, they're familiar with each other.
Sure.
So I would have to give the nod to the Ravens, but that's going
not
to be
a game
scary
the Ravens
team.
want to play.
It's not at all.
You cannot want to play that game if you're the Ravens.
So listen, it's really interesting.
Playing a
But
team for the 3rd time in a season too, like anything can happen there. All bets are off.
Really look out for that 7 seed though, right? If it's Indianapolis, I think they could be had. But guess what? If the Steelers were to sneak in there,
they're still in contention right now too.
Right?
Yeah, their offense looks a lot better.
If he's clicking, right? We have 2 more games to really sample. If they go off offensively,
Bengals have an outside shot there too
with Steelers defense. Listen, the Bengals, I think they're going to be just short. Right?
I agree.
Too many injuries.
They're in contention, but I'm with you.
One too many tough matchups, right? They got the
Kansas
Chiefs,
City. It's going to be tough.
And they have the Browns, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a lot right there for a younger quarterback.
Yep.
So would have loved to see Burrow.
We predicted it too, right? We said the Steelers would probably bring Browning back down to earth, which they kind of did.
Yeah. So listen, it's tough, right? It's really tough. But I don't think anybody's going to want to play the Steelers if they get into that 7 seed, because that's assuming their offense is rolling and Pickens. And listen, Pickens did the damn thing.
Yep.
Bet Deontay Johnson is going to want that ball too.
Sure. Let me ask you this. Based on the seeds right now, We get to week 17. Do you think anything changes as the way the current?
Listen, I think Indianapolis falls out,
I agree.
and I think Houston sneaks in and wins that division.
Interesting.
Right?
The way Jacksonville's trending.
I think
Do you think
Jacksonville might
stays
fall
in or they fall out
this
the Steelers?
Week. If listen, one, Trevor Lawrence looks hurt, and they should probably sit him.
Yeah.
If they don't, he could hurt himself more. And that Panthers defense, they're playing hard.
They are.
Right? They're playing hard. Bryce Young's got a little rhythm going. And so I don't think the Panthers are going to go in there fearful of those Jaguars.
I hear you. So listen, I agree with you. I think Indy does fall out too as well. I think the Steelers are actually going to end up making it in. I think the Steelers are going to find their way in.
So we have the same setup. So do you think Jacksonville wins or do you think Houston wins?
Oh man, that's a great
that's our only difference right now.
Predicated on that. I got to tell you, with the way.
Or do the Colts sneak in?
I don't think the Colts. I think the Colts are out. Yeah, I actually would not be shocked right now if the Steelers and Houston end up in and Jacksonville ends up falling out. I just don't like the way Jacksonville is trending right now. But I could be totally. No, you know what? I'm gonna say I'm gonna say that Houston and Pittsburgh are gonna end up sneaking in. I think Jacksonville might end up falling out. Yeah, right. I really believe that. Okay. So we'll see.
Well, listen, that's jumbled together, right? The NFC is really tight at the top.
It is.
Right? You got the 49ers at 11-4.
Three teams all still vying for the number 1 seed.
You got the Eagles at 11-4, and you have the Detroit Lions at 11-4. All three of them have a legitimate shot at winning the conference.
Yeah.
Right? Now, the 49ers have the best record in the conference at 9-1.
They do.
Right? And then the Eagles and the Lions are
tied
at 7-3,
yep.
But the Eagles have the easiest remaining schedule. They play the Cardinals, and it's questionable. It's questionable whether Kyler Murray is going to be playing this weekend.
Oh wow!
If he's not playing, then
that's fair. Even with him playing, I'm taking Philly. But
right?
Yeah.
And the 49ers, they play the Rams to end the season.
They do.
And the Rams are going to be fighting to get into the playoffs. So that's not going to be an easy matchup. Now, look, the Commanders game is going to be a get-right game, but how hurt is Trent Williams? I wouldn't be surprised if they leave him out to try to get him a little healthy. But if he's not ready,
should be able to win a game against the Commanders without him.
Agreed. But if he's not ready for that Rams game, that's going to be really, really interesting.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. And listen, it's not like Dallas could still win the division. I just don't think they're going to with the Eagles.
Don't lie to the Cowboys fans like that, right? Don't do that, right?
The Eagles are probably
now you're just being mean. Now you're just being mean. It's the holiday season.
No, but again, it's really between those three teams. The only way is if Philly were to somehow have a collapse. It's really between those three for the top seed. You got Tampa, who looks like they're probably going to take the division. And based on how the Falcons and the Saints have looked to end the season, I like the Bucs to sit there comfortably at that spot. And that's all they can get. They couldn't possibly catch any higher a seed. Then you have Dallas coming into the 5th. So if it were to shake up the way it shakes right now, San Fran would have the bye. Philly would have Seattle. Detroit would have the Rams. Oh my God, I would sign up for that. We did talk about that. Talk about that at the break. If that is the game, sign me up. I think
that's the best game of the weekend.
Fantastic storyline, everything. Matt Stafford going back home.
Revenge game.
Maybe get his first playoff win ever in Detroit. And then you would have Tampa Bay taking on Dallas, which would be interesting because again, Dallas is a very different team on the road than they are at home. They'd have to go on Florida, and they're very different on grass than they are on turf.
Now, but listen, the only win the Cowboys have on the road in the playoffs is against Tampa Bay, if I'm not mistaken, a year or two ago. Right?
Yeah.
So, listen, I don't think Dallas would be,
it was last year.
It was last year, right?
Yeah, it was last year.
And so I don't think Dallas
would
be 8-9, right? Listen, it's a good story for Tampa Bay, right? If they win the division, right? They're really strapped with their cap situation right now. Yeah. It was a good find in Baker Mayfield. Look, listen,
people thought they were going to be terrible this year.
Listen, much props to Baker Mayfield, right?
Yeah.
I was definitely hard on him.
He can still be a starter in the league.
Exactly. But you know what? Listen, he finally made good decisions, right? And so props to Baker, where he didn't force the ball. He didn't try to do too much. He got the ball to his playmaker.
Yep.
He really was a point guard this year.
They got guys on that team, man.
They do.
Guys.
They really do. And that's still a really good defense.
Oh, yeah.
Still a really good defense, right? So that was really good to see. But listen, I think things are shaking out nicely for Dallas, right? So if things were to just land the way they land, You have listen. I think the Eagles are going to finish with the number 1 seed, right? So let's assume Eagles are at
You think
1.
the Eagles are?
I think the Eagles are going to finish with number 1.
Okay.
Right. So let's say Eagles are 1, right? Or even if we just go off of how things are exactly right now. Yeah. So San Francisco gets the bye, right? You have Philly at 2, right? They will play Seattle. Then you would have 3 Lions
and Rams
playing the Rams, and then you have the Bucks playing the Dallas Cowboys, right? So let's say Cowboys win, right? Let's say Rams win, right?
They would then play.
Then the Rams would play the 49ers, and then Dallas would play the Eagles.
That is correct.
Right? But if we assume the Rams lose, now Dallas is going to play the 49ers.
Which is not what Dallas wants.
It's not what they want, right? They would much rather play the Eagles.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this, too, just looking at the 7 seeds, I think we're looking at the 7 playoff teams. Might not be the order, but I think we're looking at the 7 playoff teams in the NFC.
I got to disagree with you.
Oh, who do you think comes in?
I think Seattle falls out.
You think Seattle falls out? So who takes their spot?
The Minnesota Vikings.
Wow.
Right? Here's why I say that. The Seahawks are going to play the Steelers. Right? I think the Steelers are going to win that game.
Okay.
If Mason Rudolph and that offense...
But the Vikings are playing the... Who are the Vikings
The Vikings are playing Green Bay.
They're playing Green Bay. Those teams are both still in it.
They're still in it, but it's at Minnesota, right? And I think after that tough matchup with the Lions... they got the ball to Justin Jefferson. I think Addison Russell is going to show up, and I think the moment is going to be too big for Jordan Love. Yeah, Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison, sorry. I always get that one mixed up, right? I think the moment is going to be too big for Jordan Love, right? And I think the Vikings are going to pull that one out. And so then I'm wondering, where will the Lions be, and will that last game of the season matter?
Okay.
Right? And so... I think it's going to come down. Listen, the Lions, their last 2 games are against the Cowboys, and they're going against the Vikings. I think this is a prime opportunity for the Cowboys to win this game, right? So if the Cowboys win this game against the Lions, then I think it opens the door for the Lions to not have that last game matter, and the Vikings sneak in.
Interesting. So you have Seattle falling out. All right, I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. I think even if Seattle loses the first game, the game to the Steelers, which... I could agree with you on that one. I could see them losing that game.
Now, just realize this: if that were to happen, they would lose. Seattle would lose on the tiebreaker, right? Because their conference record is 6-5 versus Minnesota's conference record is currently 6-4, right? So if they beat Green Bay,
but even if Green Bay won, they'd be at 6-5 now too. So it's a two-way.
Yeah.
But there's still
Green Bay
one more
could sneak
game.
in. Yeah,
There's
Green
still
Bay
one
could
more
sneak
game,
in.
yeah.
You know, that's right. Credit to them, they could sneak in, right? Their last game of the season is against the Bears, right? Not going to be a gimme, but I just think Minnesota might pull it.
Especially the way the Bears are playing.
They're right. They're playing very hard, playing very well. But I think Minnesota is just going to sneak in there.
All right. Well, I guess we're going to have to wait and see. So listen, we're going to go rapid fire on the picks, but first we got to go stud of the week. All right? Stud of the week.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, you can go first. Sure, why not?
All right, I'll go first. Listen, I really want to give an honorable mention to George Pickens, right? He's went through a lot of scrutiny. Mike Tomlin went through a lot of scrutiny.
Sure.
He had 4 catches for 195 yards, right? Just dominating. Imagine if somebody was throwing him the ball all
the time.
Season long, right? Steelers get a real quarterback and a real offensive coach, right? That the coordinator that can throw the ball downfield and put together a good scheme.
Sure.
I would love to see Eric Bieniemy on the Steelers right now. I would love to see Kellen Moore on the Steelers next season. But my stud of the week is going to go to one old man Joe Flacco, right? Listen, I looked around. I thought about, a couple other players, but like what he's doing at his age, right? First of all,
right off the couch.
In the 3-4 games, he's leading the league in passing yards, right? He had 3 touchdowns. Yes, he had 2 picks, but like he was just dropping dimes, right? 368 yards, right? And he was beating them so bad, they took him out early.
Yeah.
Right? So listen, and first of all, that offensive line is beat up. 25% of their cap, in terms of highest salary players, are injured.
Wow.
Right? And they're still doing the damn thing. No Nick Chubb, 3 offensive linemen out, safeties hurt. So you got to give it up to him. The guy's not even mobile, and he's putting the ball in amazing places.
So listen, You got the right team. You just got the wrong player. No disrespect to Joe, Chicks dig the deep ball, Flacco, but I got to go with the guy who set the new single game franchise record for reception yards in a game, and that's one Amari Cooper. 11 receptions, 265 yards, 2 TDs. Man was just a man amongst boys. That one deep ball down the sideline that he caught and was able to break, and the guy even tried to like shoestring tackle him from behind. Beautiful. It's just funny. You like forget whenever like that best receiver in the league conversation comes up, you totally forget the guy like Amari Cooper is still out there, still tearing it up.
I would wonder if some people would throw him in his top 10.
Yeah. I mean, dude, he's awesome. He is awesome. So, before we go into rapid fire picks, congratulations, my man. You went 12-4. I went 8-8. It's close here, man. It's close. I am 145-96. You are 140-100. So we got to get right into these picks because I got to try to shut this down and stop making this a game.
Hey, finishing strong, baby. Finishing strong.
So right off the bat, we got Thursday night. New York Jets at the Cleveland Browns. I don't got to take too much time on this. I'm taking the Cleveland Browns.
All right. I'm going with the New York Jets.
Are you really?
I am going with the New York Jets, right? Listen, Cleveland is riding high. They're doing well. But like I said, that offensive line is beat up. And I think the Jets are going to, they're playing hard. Picks, but New York Jets surprise you this weekend and come out and win this game.
So you think the Jets with Trevor Siemian at quarterback are going to go on the road to Cleveland and beat the Browns?
That is defense. A strong defense.
That's, all right, man. I don't know about that.
Listen, it might be a 9-6 game.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Watching the Commanders almost come back on them, I'm just not sure. All right, Detroit at Dallas.
I am going to go with the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going with the Dallas Cowboys. I think after the losses that they suffered, this is a prime opportunity for them to win at home against the Lions.
So I have Dallas too. Any shot of them still being in contention for that top seed, they have to win this game. So I like Dallas, and they're very good at home. New England at Buffalo. I'm going Buffalo. I know New England beat them once earlier in the year. I think at Buffalo, I think Buffalo's got something to prove. I think Buffalo is trying to get into the playoffs. They've found an identity. I think the game last week, if it had just been the way it had been the first half of the season, the Bills lose that game. They're now finally finding ways to win those games. I wouldn't be shocked if it was a competitive game, but I like Buffalo.
I think this game actually will be very, very competitive, right? I like what I've been seeing from Bailey Zappi. Now, I think Hunter Henry is going to be out for this game. That's been his favorite target. Yeah. So I am going to go with the Bills here, right? Yeah. I think they're the more desperate team, but I expect this to be a close game. This game is probably, 24-20, 24-17, something like that. Okay.
So this pings back to you. Atlanta at Chicago.
Great game. Listen, the Bears are really playing well right now. The Falcons have a lot to play for. They did look good with Taylor Heineke.
But they were at home, too.
They play much better at home. But
they do.
You know what? Listen, I'm going to go with the Falcons.
Going with the Falcons.
I'm going to go with the Falcons. I think it's hard to trust Justin Fields. They have every reason to win this game. I'm going to go with the Falcons.
I tried to sway you right there. I'm going with the Falcons, too, because they just simply have more to play for right now. They're a desperate team. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Chicago's won 2 in a row. I just feel like sooner or later the rubber has to meet the road and skids. Two teams going in opposite directions is just one of those times where it goes the other way.
Yeah.
So I like the Falcons. Vegas at Indianapolis. Well, I already said that I have Indianapolis falling out. I think this is a good game, but I like Vegas to actually come up with a surprise little upset right here.
All right.
Taking to Vegas.
Okay. I'm going to go with the Indianapolis Colts.
Okay.
Right? I talked about it. You mentioned it, right? Aiden O'Connell, he threw no passes after the first quarter. So I think everyone forgets about that. I think the Colts have a lot to play for, and I think they're going to surprise people here and pull out a close victory.
All righty. Los Angeles Rams at New York Giants.
I am going with the Rams. This is my survivor pick. All right. Listen, it's a $50,000 pot. I need the Rams this week, big time.
Rams all day. No disrespect to my G-men, but Rams all day. I do think the Giants blitz package could somewhat maybe slow the Rams down in the beginning, but I think the Rams will find a way to win. Arizona at Philly. I'm taking Philly.
I'm going with Philly as well.
New Orleans at Tampa Bay.
Woo! Listen, this is going to be a really close game. The Bucs are hot. They're doing really, really well. I'm actually going to take the Saints. I don't know why. I think the Saints sneak out a win here.
Wow. I'm going to go with Tampa. I just got to go with the devil that I know. Derek Carr is also not a very good road quarterback. I just like the way Tampa Bay is playing right now. I'm going to stick with Tampa. San Fran at Washington. I got San Fran.
Yeah, 49ers. Okay.
Carolina at Jacksonville.
Is that you or me?
It's you.
Listen, I'm going to go with Carolina Panthers here. Listen, just not know what's going on in Jacksonville right now. Even if Trevor Lawrence played, I'd be more worried about his health. So I'm gonna trust the Panthers here, healthier team.
Well, you're funny because I've picked the Carolina Panthers every time they've won a game this year, and I'm picking them again this time. So I like the Panthers as well. I don't like the trend of Jacksonville right now. Miami at Baltimore. I'm taking Baltimore.
Let's go. Hey, be more.
Be more.
Yes, sir.
All righty. Tennessee at Houston.
I am going with Houston.
So am I.
I am going with Houston.
That one too as well. Pittsburgh at Seattle.
Listen, I alluded to it. I'm going with the Steelers here, right? I don't think what we saw on that offense was an accident. Even though Seattle's a tough place to play, I think the Steelers are going to win here.
So do I. As much as I do like, and I still like the Seahawks to win their final game and get in, but because I think Green Bay will lose their last game after beating the Vikings. Oh, no, wait, I have that reversed. I'm sorry, the other way around. But either way, I have both of those teams losing after this week. Los Angeles Chargers at Denver. Denver is not playing great, but I think the Chargers kind of had a little bit of a flash in the pan against the Bills. I like Denver to win this game.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to go with the Chargers.
All right.
I'm going to go with the Chargers. I'm worried
It's
about
in Denver.
It is in Denver. Jared Stidham.
Throwing your money on Easton Stick. Is that the guy's name? Easton Stick?
Yeah, I know, but I
got him waffling hard right now.
I know. It's ugly. It's ugly. But you know what? Listen, I think the Chargers are just going to play hard. I think they're going to play hard. And I think,
there's definitely trouble in Denver.
There's trouble in Denver.
Doubt about that.
Where there's smoke, there's fire. So I'm going to get off of them.
All right. Cincinnati at Kansas City.
Where are you going?
Actually, you know what? I'm going to use my one renege. And I'm going to renege on
Chargers? Really?
I'm decided between two. I'm deciphering. I'm debating between two. Yeah. You know what? What the heck? I'm gonna go with the Chargers too.
All right.
That's my one renege.
Okay.
Kansas City. Cincinnati at Kansas City. I got Kansas City.
Kansas City as well.
Kansas City. And then finally, this one goes back to you. Green Bay at Minnesota.
I am gonna go with the Minnesota Vikings.
And guess what? So am I on the
right.
pre-pick.
I
like the Vikings. The Packers, again, it's too much back and forth for me. And going into Minnesota, I just can't trust Jordan Love based on what I've seen to just go out and have a game when he absolutely needs to have a big game.
All right. Since we're reneging here, I'm going to pull a renege real quick, right? And I'm going to jump on the Jacksonville Jaguars and just to make it fun.
Wow.
Just to make it fun. I got to catch up.
Gotcha. All righty then.
And you know what? I'm also going to flip on the Bears too. I got to catch up here.
You're flipping on the Bears.
Yep. I'm going to take the Bears.
He flipped on two. So I then get to flip on one as well, right? Yeah. So if he's doing that, hold on, he's doing that. I have a little bit of time here.
You better hurry up.
Really quick, hold on, let me look down the list. I'll go with Indianapolis.
Okay.
Bang. There you go. All right, listen, folks. That wraps up this week of Run It Back. We were both just running it back on our picks right there. But
trying to catch up here.
Yeah, exactly. I am Shane Mallory, joined by my co-host
Ricky DaCosta.
And we will see you next week when we
Run It Back.
Run It Back.